to the final one. The prasadam was like this, caused a little bit of delirium. It was too good. Okay, so this is the final of 11 verses, and this is the 11th verse. So now, after glorifying Srimati Radharani, Vrindavan, residents, and all of the elements that make up the mood of Vrindavan, and teaching us how to free ourselves from the entanglement of the material and artists, which keep our consciousness locked in to a fruitive activity. Now we can learn the 5 nectars, and he mentions that. So we'll chant the verse. Samasri Rupanis Mada Vishvase Radhagiri Vartor Raja Shaksat Seva Labana Vidayetana Gana Yujaho Tarik Shakadayan Shavana Nati Panchamritam Midham Dayam Nityam Govardhanam Anudinam Tvam Bhajam Manah Manah. Oh, mind. Anudinam. Every day. Dhyayan. Drink. Idam. This. Pancha Amritam. 5 nectars. Tad Ijya Kya Dhyana Sravana Nati. The worship, glories, meditation, listening of pastimes, and offering obeisances. Tvam bhaja, you should worship. Govardhanam, Govardhana. Nitya, following the rules. Saman, same as. Sri Rupena, Sri Rupa. Saksad Seva Labhana. Vidaye. To obtain the means of direct service. Smara Vishvasa Radhagiri Bharto. Of Shri Radhagiri Dari who are captivated by the God of love. Tad Gana Yujyaho. And associates. Rajay in Braj. So now, after giving us all the instructions and the means for material disentanglement, he ends the last verse. O mind, you should every day drink the 5 nectars, worship, glories, meditation, listening to divine pastimes and offering obeisances, and worship Govardhan according to the rules. In this way, follow the instructions of Sri Rupa and obtain the direct service of Sri Radhagiri Dari, who are captivated by the God of amorous love in the company of their associates in Vraj. Agyantimirandasya Ginajana Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasnaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pacharine Nirasesa Sunyavadi Pastyatya Desatarine Panchakalpa Tarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Pebacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Raghunath Das Goswami begins his instructions to the mind and what should be done on a daily basis. And he names 5 things: to worship the Lord, to chant the glories of the Lord, to meditate upon the lotus feet of the Lord and upon his associates, to listen to the divine pastimes, and to offer obeisances. So he mentions these 5 things as a daily activity after summing up the whole process of the mood of Vrindavan. The objects of all of these 5 meditations are Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, along with their associates. He also includes Govardhan. You might say he's a little partial to Govardhan because he has developed an attraction for Govardhan where he does his bhajan at the base of Govardhan Hill. And he says in order to do it, you also have to follow the rules. Doesn't mention what the rules are, but he says follow the rules. And if you do, you'll attain the service of Sri Sri Radha Giridhari. In other words, you enter into the mood of Vrindavan and become an associate in the mood of service to the divine couple. And they, the divine couple, are always captivated by amorous love in the company of their associates. So sometimes they ask, if you had to give a small and succinct and very brief statement about what is God, it would be easy after hearing from Raghunath Das Goswami and others, Acharya. God means love. Because love is the highest principle of human attainment and is the most valuable of all. Those who fail to experience love in life actually never live life. Sometimes there is some elements of love on the material level, but it's always limited and it's always subject to the time element. But we also experience that amongst friends, relatives, and sometimes even family members. And so, but those who actually understand what is real love will direct their consciousness to the source of love, which is Krishna. Sometimes he is caricatured or visualized as the god of love. He plays on his flute. When one German philosopher, I think it was, who was it? Dostoevsky, he said, when he heard that Krishna dances, he said, that must be God. That sounds like the real definition of God. Because dancing is an expression of happiness, and love is the means by which happiness really reaches its perfection. And so to perform these 5 activities are the way to awaken that love, and it's directed to Krishna and his associates. 11 points are mentioned here by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Krishna, he's never alone. You've seen pictures of Krishna. He's never alone. He's always with some other living entities. Sometimes it's his associates. Sometimes it's his associates in the form of the cows. Or even if you don't see the cows, sometimes you see the peacocks. Krishna is never alone. He likes to be with and always exchange loving relationships with his parts and parcels, especially his internal companions in the mood of Vrindavan. Another point that's given here is Madhurya Ras is the best of all rasas. And this is the mood of Lord Chaitanya. He came in the mood of Radharani, Shri Krishna Chaitanya. Radha Krishna Nohyonya. So he's expressing his bhakti in Madhurya Ras. although he's the Supreme Lord, and he's the king of all rasas, one can exchange loving relationships with him in different, the word is mellow. Mellow means mood, or in the Sanskrit it's called rasa, or a particular mood of exchange. So out of it says that Madhurya Ras is the best. It's the concentration of, just like if you have sugar, then you have what we say, gore, and you have molasses, and then you have sugar cane, and then you have rock candy. Everyone is sweet, but the concentration of sweetness is gradated till it gets to the ultimate, where it's only sweetness. So this is Madhurya Ras. All of the other rasas are also sweet, but the full sweetness is found in Madhurya Ras. Yeah. And we see how we hear so much. We don't hear so much about Vatsalya Ras, although it's there. We also hear about Sakya Ras, but not as much. But most of the pastimes we hear, and especially in Bhagavatam, and the writings of the Acharyas, especially Rupa Goswami, and here, Raghunath Das Goswami, it's always in Madhurya Ras. Because it's also individual in the sense that these personalities have that relationship with Krishna in the spiritual world. And Lord Chaitanya's associates, primarily, except for a few, were in the mood of Madhurya Ras. And so he's also emphasizing that, and he also glorifies that as the highest and the best of all relationships with Krishna. But of course, it's also individual. We also have an eternal relationship with Krishna. Some of us may be in the Vaikuntha realm. We may be in the mood of worshipping Lakshmi Narayan. Or we may be more attracted to the incarnations of the Lord that appear as Nrsingadev or Ram. Ram is considered to be the topmost within the Vaikuntha realm. And of course, the Das avatars, as glorified by Jayadev Goswami, they're mostly in the mood of what they call Aishwarya Bhav, or opulence, awe and reverence. But everyone has a particular internal mood, and that's called your Swarup. And these particular verses help us to, even if we're not in the mood of Vrindavan, we should follow in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya and cultivate that mood. And at one point, in the cultivation of our mood, the mood will manifest or direct us towards our eternal mood. So no one gets, what we say, in a different mood, because the whole system is geared to awaken that mood. But it starts with adopting a mood of a particular personality within a particular rasa, like that. So here it says that the Acharyas, of course, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, who is he's Kamala Manjari. So he's also in Madhurya Ras. Most of our Acharyas are in Madhurya Ras. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Many of them are in Madhurya Ras, also Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. Practically all of them were in that line, because the line is the line of the 6 Goswamis, which was enunciated by Lord Chaitanya. And all of the 6 Goswamis are also either Manjaris. Yeah, mostly of them are Manjaris also. So this is the highest. It's interesting that in Kali Yuga, people are, we say, highly unqualified to even consider attaining such things. But we have an extra element that in this age, because of Mahaprabhu, he's opened the door, not only to Vrindavan, but to the highest and most deepest and most sweetest of all relationships with Krishna in the mood of Madhurya Rasa. So, therefore, Lord Chaitanya, he's teaching, he's also serving in that mood. So we've been given pretty much that path of bhakti. That path of bhakti, which is really the gopis in Vrindavan. And you see most of the literature coming in our way is from the Goswamis, who are all in that same mood. There's one nice book about the cowherd boys by a devotee called Sundarananda, describing all of the different cowherd boys and what are their different forms, what are their different services, what are their different names, what are their different residents, what are their different colors, what are their different dresses. All of that's mentioned also. But we don't hear much of that. It doesn't mean it's not being emphasized. It means it's not being emphasized, but it's still considered to be an object of devotion. Another thing here, this is emphasized in this part, to achieve the direct service of the divine couple in Braj. There are different grades of services. Pure bliss is constantly experienced, always wanting more. When you're in the material world, we experience something and we also get a kind of satisfaction from that. But then if you try to add to it, you go beyond the satisfaction, it turns into something else. Like tonight we're going to have pizza, and pizza's nice, but if you eat too much, you won't enjoy any of it. Hare Krishna. Because eating, especially, is done according to one's capacity and not according to one's desire. So a good thing can turn into something else in the material world. It can turn into something opposite. We have that experience. Too much of a good thing becomes something else. But in the spiritual, a good thing only increases, only the devotee wants more of the same. And it becomes better and better. So it says that the devotees are experiencing blissful happiness, but they still want more. Can't get enough. And it's unlimited. Anandam buddhi vardhanam, that the ocean of material happiness is what it is. It's an ocean. And no one can reach the bottom of an ocean or even swim across the ocean. It's so vast and so deep. So the love that can be experienced even by the jiva, who's limited, because we know the word jiva, means something as someone who is in a capacity of limitation. But when that jiva connects with the unlimited, it also becomes unlimited. So when we connect with Krishna in devotion, we take on his qualities, which is also the qualities of the soul, which is unlimited. And different grades of service. In the spiritual world, no selfish desire. Everyone is acting for the benefit of others or for Krishna, either one. No suffering can come. Suffering is a feature of the material world. What does it mean to suffer? Unfulfilled desires is the cause of suffering. But in the spiritual world, no one desires anything but the interest of Krishna, which is the interest of the soul. And therefore the soul finds happiness in giving happiness to Krishna. We also can experience that in this world. But in the spiritual world, it's the focus. In this verse also there's an element of vipralambha bhav, that is bliss that appears to be suffering. Somebody asked me about that today, about vipralambha. How vipralambha can actually be understood as being happiness. Because the element that causes the feeling to evoke is an element, is the object of our love. So although that object is not personally present, there's a longing for that object, which creates such a strong desire that that person actually appears in the life of that person. Even in the material world, you see that sometimes there's such attraction for another person, and the person can't function or can't do anything because they're feeling separation from that. But they can actually feel the presence of that person simply by longing for it. And it's a kind of a suffering because the desire to be with that person is not there and cannot be fulfilled. But being with, in a spiritual sense, when that longing reaches an intensity, the person actually appears within the heart. That is Krishna. So even in Vipralam, there is sambhog, or meeting with Krishna, which is based on the longing of the soul. So it's like a chutney, you might say. It's always sweet, but it also has some fire to it. So hot you can't eat it, so sweet you can't stop. So that's love. I think there's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a definition of love that combines different ingredients, such as, rose water, and saffron, and musk. Some of the very really fragrant and very sought after ingredients. But after it mentions 4, it adds one more: black pepper. Black pepper, that's mentioned. Yeah, remember that verse? It's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. 5 ingredients that black pepper makes love, especially because our mood is the mood of Lord Chaitanya, which he's teaching, which is also come clearly through Prabhupada's words, that we're in the mood of longing for Krishna. And how do you express that longing? Through your service. That I want to serve more and more so Krishna will be attracted to my service and then he will come. And he does, if that service is like in that mood. But then he doesn't stay. He's always moving. So he comes, you feel some pleasure, and then he's gone. And then that longing increases again, and then when that longing increases again, that mood of wanting to be with Krishna more, it intensifies, and then you try to bring Krishna in by doing so many things to attract him, and he comes. And then you feel satisfied, there's some happiness, there's some bliss, and then he goes. Hare Krishna. So that's Lord Chaitanya's teachings, and that's the mood that Prabhupada is expressing, that we should never think, I got Krishna. We should always think, I want Krishna. But then again, there's another mood that seems to be a little contrary. It is called mamata, that I belong to Krishna. But there's something higher than that. Krishna belongs to me. Think about that one. So we would think that would be really pretense to think that Krishna belongs to me. Who am I that I can actually say that Krishna belongs to me? But it says that Krishna is more pleased with that attitude than with Krishna, that I belong to Krishna. But again, that's in the mood of, pure love. Okay, so, and of course, another principle is that all of these teachings are really coming from Rupa Goswami through Raghunath Das Goswami. Worship of the Lord. What are the different ways we can express worship of the Lord? Different objects of worship, ways to show worship. Question? Yeah, through Shravanam, Kirtanam.
All the 9 processes of devotion.
But what else can we do?
Reside in holy place.
Go to holy places? Yeah, align yourself with of visiting holy places. That is called padasevanam. Serving the lotus feet indicates holy places. Going to, taking part and honoring the Lord on His appearance days, such as Janmashtami, Gaur Purnima, like that. And these are also ways to worship the Lord. Ekadasi. Ekadasi also is an opportunity to increase one's worship of the Lord. All of this is part of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's analysis of this verse. Offering garlands to the Lord. Offering foodstuffs to the Lord. Accepting the Lord's mercy in the form of charinamrita. And especially, this is called Tidayanam. I think you were mentioning that verse by Lord Shiva. Tidayanam Samarchanam. Tidayanam means those things that are in relationship to the Lord. They're more worshipful than the Lord, actually, in the sense that one gains greater amounts of spiritual merits by worshiping those things that are connected with the Lord, such as Tulsi Devi, following Ekadasi, serving Srimad Bhagavatam by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, like that. Accepting the prasadam of the Lord, that is also an important part. Prasadam is simply not something to satisfy the tongue. It does that, and it's also part of the process, but prasadam means to honor Krishna in the form of foodstuffs. Srila Prabhupada was very, what's the word? He wouldn't take prasadam, especially lunch prasadam, in public. He would. I went to the Los Angeles temple, and they showed me a place where Prabhupada used to sit and take prasadam, and he would face the wall. There was a little corner in the temple, and there would be a table there, and Prabhupada would face the wall, so he wouldn't see anything else. And you couldn't talk to him during prasadam. On special occasions, or maybe rare occasions, sometimes some special guests would come and Prabhupada would share, but that wasn't the norm. The norm was Prabhupada always took prasadam alone. And he always used to meditate that Krishna has come in the form of prasadam, like that. And just to give a little insight in our own activities in prasadam, we should keep the conversations nice during prasadam. Because if you get into an argumentative type conversation during prasadam, it ruins the whole experience of prasadam. So we can talk. It's been allowed. Of course, sometimes people don't want to, but that's fine. But if you want to talk, keep it very pleasant and avoid controversy, avoid arguments like that, because that creates a big cover over the real experience of taking prasadam, the actual experience. Okay. Okay, the next one is the glorification of the Lord. That can be through scriptural study and chanting the Lord's name. Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing Bhagavad Gita, and chanting the holy name. Meditation is also mentioned. Smaranam, remembrance. Remembrance comes in 5 different levels of remembering, all the way up to samadhi, which is absorption. Jiva Goswami, he gives a particular formula for meditation. Meditate on the holy names. And from the holy names, that meditation will transmute or evolve into a higher form of meditation on Krishna's forms. From his forms, reveal his qualities. From his qualities, one comes to his associates. And then also one's seva to him, and then ultimately his leelas. And so Jiva Goswami mentions 7 different levels of meditation, starting with the holy name all the way up to Krishna's pastimes like that. I mentioned meditation, smaranam. Goes from meditation, dharana, dhyana, called dhruva nusmriti, and samadhi. 5 ways to enter into the mood of meditation or smaranam. And that's described. And I'll read a little bit more. And from the hearing, listening to the pastimes of the Lord, especially Krishna's playful pastimes in Vrindavan. This is coming from Bhakti Vinod Thakur. You have to say, some of the acharyas will give different interpretations of the same thing. And none of them are wrong. Some of them are according to their own mood or their own level of understanding. Like that. So here, Bhakti Vinod Thakur said, listen to the saintly discourses glorifying Krishna's playful pastimes. When Krishna was in Vrindavan, many demons came, and one day Krishna killed a real big demon. So all his friends got around him and said, hey Lal, how'd you do that? That guy was big. You know, yesterday I beat you in wrestling, but I couldn't kill that demon. Another one said, yeah, I stole your lunch and you were crying, but I couldn't kill that demon. How'd you do it? And Krishna's not saying anything, he's quiet. So all the boys are running around trying to figure out how Krishna did it. So then they get into a little group and said, all right, yeah, I know, it's his mother. She gives him a demon-killing mantra before he leaves the house in the morning. So he's fully equipped by the power of his mother. Another one says, yeah, that's correct. It is his mother, but she puts these armlets and amulets on him. And these give him power and he can kill demons. So they're going back and forth, guessing. Krishna's not saying anything. He's quiet. He's just listening. So at one point, Krishna says, you want to know? Yeah. They all get excited and they're all ready to hear. So Krishna said, well, when I was born, a great sage came to meet my father in a very secret meeting. And he said to my father, this boy, your son, he is as good as Narayan. And then he went on to say, and in fact, he is Narayan. So Krishna turns to his friends, said, if you want to know, I'm God. He thinks he's God. What's next? And they all start laughing. And they're laughing so much, Krishna starts laughing also. This happened in a place in Vrindavan called Hasyavan. So you know the word Hasya means laughter. And they're laughing and they're laughing. When I read this pastime, Shivaram Maharaj puts it in his book, Nu Raja Mahimrita, Amrita. I couldn't read anymore. I just put the book down. I was laughing so much. And I didn't want to read anything after that. It's a humorous pastime. Because the way Krishna kind of does this, it just explodes. And then after they're laughing for a while, they all say, all right, let's go play. They don't care if Krishna's God. Because he's so attractive. He's just the most beautiful person that they know. And he has all the qualities that attract everyone. That's all they care about. So when he tells them he's God, kind of ruins everything. So he doesn't push that so much. But sometimes, just to bring a little humor, he says that. So yeah. So to hear Krishna's pastimes, especially his playful pastimes, offering obeisances, that's also mentioned. There's different ways to offer obeisances. The one is called the 11 point, and one is called the 8 point. The 8 point is hands, feet, thighs, chest, head, and eyes with closed eyes, mind and speech, one offers obeisances. But then sometimes, especially for ladies, they don't do the 8 points. They do the, what is it called? It's 5 points, the knees, the feet, the head, like that. So offering obeisances before the Lord as an object of devotion, that's called offering obeisances. Worshipping Govardhan, there's 2 ways. Worship Govardhan Shila as one respects the mercy of the Lord himself. So the Shila of Govardhan is none different than Krishna, and his good has his, what we say, full mercy. Another way is to reside in Sri Govardhan, or any of the holy places that surround Govardhan, like that. So that's also a way to worship Govardhan. And of course, take up the mood of what Raghunath Das Goswami is teaching us to focus on. Worship of Govardhan by worshipping the mood, in the mood of Radha Krishna and Vrindavan. And the last point, the 11th point, in accordance with the rules of devotion, follow the rules of Vaidhi Bhakti, or those who are eligible will worship according to Raga Bhakti, like that. So even those, we mentioned this at the very beginning of the seminar, even those who have developed Raga Bhakti, they still do the external activities that are in line with what we say Vaidhi Bhakti, such as chanting and hearing Bhagavatam, all of the activities that we do. But their mood is different. We mentioned how people can cheat on the external level and present themselves as being devoted by doing the external activities, but they have a different motive. Their motive is to gain something material in one form or another. And therefore a certain cheating propensity can also manifest on that level. But on the internal level, it's not possible. You're either there or you're not there. So the internal, and the Acharyas, especially Bhakti Siddhanta and Srila Prabhupada taught the internal mood as the actual mood of devotion. Although Prabhupada taught us the rules and regulations, he also mentioned how we should develop that mood of loving attraction to Krishna, which is what we say synonymous with the mood of Raga Bhakti, like that. So this is the 11th verse. This is some points in relationship to that. Any comments or questions? Okay, Sri Devi.
Guru Maharaj, you said that this mood, I belong to Krishna, but what is more pleasing is Krishna belongs to me. But this mood, how, first and foremost, it's a very exalted mood, which you said, but how can one attain this mood that Krishna belongs to me?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask. Vishnu Priya, you want to answer that one? He's too humble. In the mood of worship, the Lord actually becomes present in that mood of worship, and that the devotee actually thinks it's only them. There's some indication in the Christian tradition that, what is that prayer? That Jesus is the only Son of the Lord. But God has many sons, but one can feel like that there is nothing beyond the Lord and myself. That the worship becomes so deep that you don't know anything else. So in that mood, Krishna belongs to me. It's just you and Krishna. Although others may have the same experience, you're not conscious of that, nor do you care about that either. But obviously it's on the level of spontaneous devotion to Krishna. Spontaneous means they can't stop thinking of Krishna and are always planning how to serve Krishna.
I remember His Grace Nityananda Prabhu, the Dallas Temple president, he was giving a lecture once, and he said, in the spiritual world, every living entity thinks Krishna is mine. It doesn't belong to anyone else except me.
Yeah,
It's me and him, and that's it.
that's
So
it.
that's the mood in the spiritual world.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm. Spiritual possessiveness. Any other questions? Yes, Radha Vinodini. And who do we have in the back there? Is that Raj? Okay, you're next. Uh-oh, I'm going to get that question that I can't answer. Maybe you should rephrase your question, then it'll work.
Okay.
There you go.
So I'm always a bit confused when I accept that this Madhurya mood rasa is the highest, but
But what?
sorry.
What is that but?
But you also mentioned that everyone has their own original mood.
Well, that's, yeah, that your swarup. The soul has form. And that form is, your actual identity.
So for me it's a little bit controversial because, I understand why it's the highest, but so many times I hear from devotees like we should endeavor for the highest, but for me somehow it seems so arrogant, like trampling into somewhere where I don't belong or I'm not qualified for.
Well, the point is, if you follow the process, you become qualified. And then you become eager to open up that relationship. But if you try to understand it from a level that where you're not qualified, you won't understand it.
And if someone's original swarupa is something else, then what happens?
Yeah, if you follow the rules and regulations of sadhana bhakti, Raganuga bhakti, that personality will direct you towards who you actually are through the process of worship that's mentioned. And then also there's a part where one takes what is called a guru who can give them their... But generally, Prabhupada said it's your spiritual master who can awaken that, not awaken, but can teach you the science of how to awaken it.
So do I understand it properly that if we follow this process...
Have you read Shiva Raman's books? I mean, you give me all of his books. You must read them also.
Not all of them.
Did you read Spontaneous Devotional Service by Shiva Ramaraj?
I started, but originally I had it in English, and this was so scientific.
He spells it out in detail, and he shows what is not, at the same time what is, and how it can be applied in ISKCON also. He's very clear on how, and he's quoting the Acharyas, and also giving his realizations based on the process. Yeah, just read his books. Spontaneous Devotional Service. He wrote 2 books on that. One is called Spontaneous Devotional Service, and the other one is called Further Awakening of Spontaneous Devotional Service.
Yes, somehow it was difficult to read that in English because...
But it must be also in the local life.
First one is in Hungarian, the second one is not so
But the first one's good enough.
Okay.
Yeah, And by the time you finish the first one, the second one should be in Hungarian.
I don't know, because Maharaj lately wants to inspire his disciples to learn English.
Yeah, that's true. He told me, he said, I'm not giving any more classes in Hungarian, even to the devotees who don't understand English. Because he wants the devotees to learn English, yeah.
But the problem is that devotees don't believe him.
He still speaks in Hungarian, right?
Yes, and
Not much, though.
some of his books are already half translated, and so they believe that it will be published in Hungarian too.
Good, good. Well, read what you can and practice. You speak English quite well.
It depends on how it's phrased, because some of his
Yeah.
writings I can understand, but that book was more difficult than the others.
Prabhupada used to say, if you don't understand it, read it again. And keep repeating your reading until you understand it. Takes a little more time, but the understanding will come through repetition.
Thank you.
Yes, Raj, you have a question?
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj, you read us the instruction, the daily instruction that we must worship Govardhan. And then you read that we must worship Govardhan daily according to the rules. And then you said, but the rules were not mentioned. So what to do, Guru Maharaj?
No, it says that one can, they say, worship. Sri Raghunath Das offers this particular instruction for himself as well as everyone else. Sri Chaitanya, the moon of the skylark heart of devotees, personally gives his Govardhan Shila to Raghunath Das Swami, who describes this incident in one of his books called Stavamali. And he writes, although I am a fallen soul, the lowest of men, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered me from the blazing forest fire and the great material opulence by his mercy. He handed me over in great pleasure to Sarup Damodar, his personal associate. The Lord also gave me a garland of small conch shells that he wore on his chest and a stone from Govardhan Hill, although they were very dear to him. That same Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, awakens within my heart and makes me mad after him. A Govardhan Shila is a direct manifestation of the Supreme Lord. Worshipping this Shila, or harboring the attitude, I will never leave Govardhan, where Sri Raghunath Das Goswami resides, is also service to Govardhan. So living in Govardhan is the beginning. Following the rules to worship Govardhan. There's a little illustration here that you're offering arti to Govardhan, using lamps, incense, and various sacred paraphernalia for worship. The cows also are on Govardhan, so worshipping the cows who also stay on Govardhan. Offering prostrated obeisances before Govardhan is another form of worship. But one can also do these things in the mind. It says if one can't personally go, one can worship in the mind. So worship in the mind means hearing the glories of Govardhan, hearing the activities of the Lord in relationship to Govardhan, hearing Raghunath Das Swami's glorification of Govardhan and his Govardhan Astakam. All this is ways to worship Govardhan.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you very much. I'm speaking because the mic is near. I might as well take this advantage. So Maharaji, I was in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's commentary on this verse. He writes about whatever service is rendered in a stage of sadhana bhakti, which you mentioned, is a simulation of direct service according to that direct service. And slowly, I guess he's saying, as that is perfected, then in the spiritual world, we perform some service from a distance, then under guidance of a manjari takes us closer and closer, then eventually we qualify to do direct service. So two questions, Maharaj. One is Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he talks about it's the route through getting close to the Sakhis, and then eventually we will get direct service of Radha and Krishna.
Yeah,
so
they can't approach Radha Krishna directly.
So
They go through the Sakhis, yeah.
So first question is that the normal route, or is it because of Raghunath Das Goswami's kind of mood?
It is his mood, but it's that mood of anyone who wants to adopt that mood. As I mentioned, if it's not your mood, or if it's not your swarup, your eternal identity, then following that process, the personality who you are worshipping, who is a resident of Vrindavan, will also guide you towards your actual swarup.
Yes.
So you might be attracted to one of Krishna's associates, either in the Madhurya Ras or the Vatsalya Ras or in the Sakya Ras. But then you just follow, and at one point, I think we're getting a little change in weather now, huh? And at one point, you'll know whether you should continue in the same. And you also have Guru there for giving guidance. You can't do this by yourself. Guru directs, and he also gives you the means of worship, and also guides you through that worship.
Can I ask one more question?
Did you get that one?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Remember, you have to digest before you take another bite.
So in terms of
You can use that one once in a while. Prabhupada, that's from Prabhupada. Yes.
in terms of our service at this beginning stage, sadhana stage, if there's certain services that we find a natural tendency to be attracted to or enthusiasm for, or feel that rasa or connection, could that be an indication of what our natural service could be?
Not necessarily, but it could be. Not necessarily. That's why you need validations from Guru. It takes you through this thing. It's a guided form of meditation. So, in the previous eras, you would get another guru who was your, what he would call it, your Siddha Pranali guru. But in Prabhupada's and in Bhakti Siddhanta, that was pushed out. And then one can find it through their own spiritual master, or adopt someone who is on the same level as your spiritual master for guidance, in case your spiritual master wasn't personally present. Requires guidance. Yes, oh yeah, okay.
Is there any examples of Prabhupada giving any of his disciples that level of guidance?
That level
of guidance, like taking them through, finding their swarup and.
Well, something similar in the year 1975, Prabhupada gave Babaji initiation to one devotee, Anuloma. His name was Anuloma Babaji. But Prabhupada didn't do that again, but he did it once. And he said, now you're finished with all material activities. Your only business is to go to Vrindavan and chant. That's all. Because that devotee not only was, developed in his practice, but he also had a terminal disease. Prabhupada was to go to Vrindavan and just chant, and then finish your life that way. And then he went to Vrindavan, started to follow, but then he got well and left his Babaji. So Prabhupada never did it again, because he saw how someone misused it, thinking that it was only because he was leaving the body. So Prabhupada gave Babaji initiation. I mean, that is Paramahansa. That's the highest, So, yeah, we have that example, that he authorized that, at least in one occasion.
It wasn't like the norm, like we didn't see
No,
it
no.
happen many.
No, happened once, but he saw how it got, thrown aside after he had done it. You can hear the tape. It's July 11th, 1975. Prabhupada gives the initiation lecture to this Babaji, which was his disciple.
So should we be following that then, like finding your swarup, and should we, if Prabhupada hasn't done it, or hasn't set an example for it, or none of his disciples have been guided through it, like you're saying?
We should aspire for those higher stages, but then when you become qualified, then you enter into the mood of Raganuga Sadhana. I think Shiva Ram Maharaj has spelled it out really in detail in his books, how to go about it. All of the details I'm not completely aware of. But one of the first principles is to adopt a particular resident of Vrindavan and serve that resident. And may it be any of the three higher rasas. And then by serving that resident, by glorifying that person, by understanding the qualities of that person and trying to adopt those same qualities, not the same activities, but the same qualities, then one can proceed to make the... And then there's guidance by the spiritual master also. And Prabhupada also said, when the disciple is ready, the guru will appear also. That refers to Raganuga Bhakti also.
Do you think the disciples weren't ready at that time when Prabhupada was on the planet, so he was never able to guide anyone through it, but now Shiva Ram Swami is spelling it out because...
Shiva Ram Maharaj is pushing that, saying it is the actual conclusion of our worship, or it's the perfection of our worship. It's what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught. It's what Prabhupada taught. But they never gave really detailed explanations on how to perform it. I mean, it's obvious, unless you come to the love of God, you can't go back home. And spontaneous devotional service is the mood by which love of God develops. Mahajan, anything you want to add?
It's too lofty for me. Sorry.
See, if we think it's too lofty for us, then we won't go after it.
No, I go after, but I just to give us to say something about it.
Okay. No, we should think, I want to come to that stage. I want to actually perfect it. But let me follow the process until I'm actually qualified. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions that if one cultivates the mood of chanting as one's, main activity in devotional service, that's the fast track. Harinam Sankirtan is the fast track. Prabhupada said, anybody have a Chaitanya Charitamrita? Or a Veda base on their phone? Okay. Satyabhama, turn to Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 3, verse 203. This is Lord Chaitanya at the house of Advaita Acharya. This is it. I'm just gonna rock the boat a little bit with this one. It's good to rock the boat without falling into the water. Okay, Q&A. Someone can read it out loud, the translation and the purport. Who would like to read? Somebody who's good at reading. You're too soft. Come on, you got to put some volume into it. Okay.
Acharya Shada Bhakti Griha Sampadadhane Sakala Sapara Haila Prabhuradhane.
Louder. Yeah. Okay.
In this way, all the opulence of Advaita Acharya, his faith, devotion, home, riches and everything else, was successfully utilized in the worship of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Purport.
Advaita Acharya set an ideal example for all householder devotees in his reception of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees, and in his execution of the daily festival at his home. If one has the proper means and wealth, he should occasionally invite the devotees of Lord Chaitanya who are engaged in preaching all over the world and hold a festival at home, simply by distributing prasadam and talking about Krishna during the day and holding congregational chanting for at least 3 hours in the evening.
No, next point. Okay, get nice and loud in the next line. Okay.
This procedure must be adopted in all centers of the Krishna consciousness movement.
Go back over and say that again, because nobody was paying attention to close.
This procedure must be adopted in all centers of the Krishna consciousness movement.
Yeah, so what does Prabhupada say? What is that procedure, he says? How many hours? When? Daily. And where?
In the temple.
All the temples, worldwide. Hare Krishna. You see, we'll have a different movement if that was happening. We don't do it. Why? Because we're still attached to the fruits of our activities, and we see the fruits of our activities as being the success in bhakti. We're still in the mode of getting things done and getting something from them, which is also acceptable. But if we pushed aside the essence, then we'll never be able to understand what is this process of bhakti in terms of the experience we have. So Harinam Sankirtan destroys all anarthas, removes all blocks, opens up the door to the spiritual world. When it's performed properly. That means with devotion, like that. Golokira Premadan Harinam Sankirtan. So Prabhupada's given the formula. Chat. And don't stop. Oh, I got so many things to do. There's ways of getting everything done. That means going to a higher level of existence, and you realize you don't need to do any of these things. So we're practical, but we're also transcendental at the same time. So if we would emphasize this particular statement, the whole world would be different. 3 hours of kirtan every night in every temple. As Prabhupada says it. When he says something in his lectures, that's one thing. When he writes it in his books, that means it is like law. He said, my books are the law books for the next 10,000 years. And acharyas, all of the senior devotees always say, whatever Prabhupada said in his books is the absolute principle that he wanted. As opposed to what he said in his lecture, which may also be, but they are also subject to discussion. But these things in his books, no. Okay, so start it. 3 hours, and wherever you are, try to initiate that. And you'll see the whole atmosphere will change completely. More people will come, everything will be easier. The worship of the deities will be easier. The hearing of the Bhagavatam will be more understandable. Everything will open up through Harinam Sankirtan. What are some verses? Can you think of some verses that are the absolute sweeping principles that center around that? And simply by chanting the holy names, all of one's desires are automatically fulfilled.
I'm thinking that there's a verse that's quoted, I think, from the Skanda Purana, that Krishna, and it said that all the benefits from all yajnas, sacrifices, and so on, they're all contained in the holy name.
Right.
That's the one that's all.
You reminded me of one coming from the Kali Santara Upanishad. Iti sodasakam nam nam Kali kamasannasanam Nata paratayo payo sarva vedushi krishtute. After searching through all Vedic literatures, one cannot find a more sublime and direct process of self-realization in this age of Kali than chanting these 16 names and then the rest of the verses. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. How many were here last night for the kirtan? I saw things that I don't usually see in kirtan last night. Did you see what the devotees were doing at the end? I was unbelievable. There was so much ecstasy. It was like, whoa. The ladies were going, and the men were watching the ladies, I think. At least I was. It was mad last night. Yeah, wasn't it? But even before that, even when we began, it was like, whoa. So as soon as you walk in and the holy name is being chanted nicely with devotion, the whole atmosphere is Vaikuntha. So the holy name is the means in this age. So in all of our discussions that centered around Raghunath Das Goswami's guidance and instruction really centers around the glorification of the holy name. Prabhupada used to say, chant and don't stop. So when we think, how is that possible? It is. But it requires some purification and it requires some practice also. Like that. Imagine if you just chanted now until you die. You go back to the Godhead. You wouldn't get a lot of things done, but who cares? Huh?
Sorry, though. So, yeah, I wanted to say that, we chant japa, but Krishna Katha is also a kind of chanting.
Yeah, that's also.
So, if we take prasad with a meditative mood, it's also a kind of chanting.
Yeah. if you realize prasad is Krishna,
Yeah.
if you have that realization, then what you say is absolutely correct, yeah. But if you think it's food and it's,
No, it's prasad.
yeah, if you're actually honoring prasad. Someone asked Prabhupada, prasadam is Krishna, so can we go back home simply by eating prasad? Prabhupada said yes, as long as you realize that this prasadam is Krishna. So it's the consciousness behind it, not necessarily only the activity.
And also Maharaj, his bhajan and kirtan also are very powerful.
Very powerful.
So it's question of association of company.
Yeah, that's also there.
Company association.
But even if the person is not musically inclined, still the holy name has its effect. There's one time the Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, and the devotees had met this real professional singer. And he was quite expert. He was also singing bhajans. So they wanted to introduce him to Prabhupada. So they did. And they asked, can he lead this particular, I think it was one of the artis. Prabhupada said, yeah. So the man was expert, musician and beautiful singer. So he started to sing, and the devotees were mesmerized. Prabhupada told him to stop. And he looked at another devotee and said, you sing instead. When the other devotee started singing, he sounded like a frog. with a sore throat. Not only a frog, but a frog with a sore throat. So, but Prabhupada is sitting there and he's smiling. And all the devotees are going. So Prabhupada was hearing the bhakti. The boy had bhakti. This other person, there wasn't any bhakti. It was just show. He was expert. He had all the qualities of an expert musician, and he also had a beautiful voice with no bhakti. So the pure devotee can immediately sense. So Prabhupada wanted to show it's not about expertise, it's about bhakti. Yeah, so that's one example. And there were many also. Yeah, we can do these other activities also, but the fast track is the holy name. And it's important to do all these other things because they support the chanting of the holy name also. Yeah, to hear Bhagavatam, to associate with and serve devotees, to take Krishna Prasadam, also gives us a chance to develop our chanting in the holy name. It helps to build that quality. These things are also necessary. Mm-hmm.
Guru Maharaj, since we were talking about our eternal Swarup, etc., I was wondering that when one attains the eternal spiritual world, the disciple-guru relationship is eternal. So does that transform into the eternal spiritual master Swarup in the spiritual world and the sadhaka Swarup in the spiritual world? Or how does that relationship continue in the spiritual world?
Prabhupada said, well, you'll always see that soul who you meet in the spiritual world, who is your spiritual master. You'll always have that same mood. He's the person that brought me back to the spiritual world. There becomes an eternal debt towards that soul. But they may be friends. They may be in the same rasa. They may share friendship, but still, that understanding is still that person is my eternal spiritual master. Because the spiritual master is eternal. It's not just until you make it. Like the Mayavadis think, you worship the guru until you become the guru, and then you don't need the guru anymore. Prabhupada said, use the example, you want to climb up to a high level, so you use a ladder. When you get to the top, you kick the ladder away. No.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm very glad to hear this. Hare Krishna.
See you later. I hope. Any other questions? We're over time? Okay. I think there's another program which devotees will find very, what we say, intimate. So thank you very much. And tomorrow, myself and Bhuta Bhavana Prabhu will summarize the 12th verse, which is the Falastuti, which is more or less a summary of what we discussed, along with questions and answers from the devotees, like that. Thank you very much, and it's a great privilege to be with all of you and have this opportunity for service. Thank you.